Thank everyone for coming out here on this bitter cold Sunday morning. We really appreciate it, especially after a long break at our Sunday Hebrew school. You may have noticed a few kids around. We have we have a wonderful Hebrew school here. So we've just ending a 3-week winter break, and it's very exciting to be able to welcome everyone here with the new semester. So thank you very much for coming. I want to give a special appreciation to Rabbi Max Anteby for coming in from Brooklyn for this morning's presentation. Rabbi Anteby came here many years ago, before my time, but the first time I met him was when he came February 2016, a little over 2 years ago. He came and he spoke about the wonders of the 7 wonders of creation or something like that. And when he was done the presentation, the audience came over to me and said, "Don't let him leave. You can't let him go." So we struck a deal at the time that he would come back. We would have him speak to us very soon. A month after that event, we went on a trip with the synagogue to Brooklyn, and Rabbi Anteby met us in Brooklyn, and he spoke with us on that day. And it was a very special thing that he came to us on that day. Rabbi Anteby was very busy at the time with his dying father, and he left the hospital to come speak with us. He went back to the hospital as soon as he was done, and I think that was his father's final day. So we are very appreciative of everything he does for us. And today's Torah study, today's class should be a merit for his father, whose name is Abraham Chaim ben Kamar. His soul should have an elevation in heaven. Seeing everyone coming out here together to learn a little bit more about the Judaism. Just 1 or 2 quick lines about Rabbi Anteby. Rabbi Anteby's been teaching for 20 plus years. He's taught in many states, many countries. His teachings are sought after everywhere. He published 3 separate books. One of them is called The Jewish Theory of Everything. Number 2 is The Spiritual Light. And number 3, Judaism to the Max. And after you hear today's presentation, I'm sure that you're going to be looking for those books online, and you can contact me to find out how to get them. And aside from what he does on his time volunteering, he's a director of a school for children with special needs. So he has really a pulse on what's going on in the community, the Jewish community, and around that. And it's really an honor to call up Rabbi Anteby to share with us a few words about why the Jews. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi Salem. I want to thank him for inviting me back to Ben Salem. And I think this is my 5th or 6th time that I'm here. It is a pleasure to be here. I also thank you all for coming out on a beautiful day like today. It is a beautiful day, so I'm going to try and get you out by about 2:30. Okay, 11. This is a very exciting topic, and it should be quite emotional for many people. Anyone who has ever experienced any anti-Semitism here in America or in a previous country where you may have lived, you feel it, you know it. So this presentation is called Why the Jews? I want to read you 3 quotations. One of them you probably heard already. It's by Mark Twain. It says, "The Egyptian, the Babylonian, the Persian rose, filled the planet with sound and splendor, then faded away to dream stuff. The Greek and the Roman followed, made a vast noise, and they are gone. Other peoples have sprung up, raised their torch high, and now sit in twilight, or have vanished completely. The Jew saw them all, beat them all, and now is what he always was. All things are mortal, but the Jew." That's Mark Twain. I want to read to you from Leo Tolstoy, a man of few words. "The Jew is the emblem of eternity, he whom neither slaughter nor torture of thousands of years to destroy. He whom neither fire, nor sword, nor inquisition was able to wipe off the face of the earth. The Jew is as everlasting as eternity itself." One more. Friend of ours, Mahmoud Abbas, September 2016. "We welcome every drop of blood, of Jewish blood, spilled in Jerusalem. This is pure blood, clean blood on its way to Allah. With the help of Allah, every martyr will be in heaven, and every wounded will get his reward. All of them are echoing the same thought that we say probably every Seder night for the last thousands of years. B'chol dor v'dor omdim aleinu l'chalotenu. In every generation, the nations rise up to destroy us. The question is, why? What is the cause of this anti-Semitism that has been around, this extreme hatred for thousands and thousands of years? What is it in the psyche, in every nation which says, I have to hate the Jewish people? What is it? Why would Fiji, Cameroons, and Senegal vote in the United Nations against the Jewish nation, against Jerusalem? What do they know about us? But something deep inside of them says there's something about the Jewish people that says no. So we want to look today, what is the cause of anti-Semitism? So, if we were to go around the room, and I would ask you, 60 of you, what's the cause of anti-Semitism? I guarantee you would have 60 different answers. We can't look at all of them. So, I want to ask you, in your mind, not the emotional cause of anti-Semitism, but if you were a sociologist and you were studying civilizations, what would you say are some of the reasons why people don't like the Jews? Yes?
Too smart.
Fear.
Fear, interesting. Okay, we'll look at that. Why?
Too smart.
Too smart. Okay, they notice that we're smart. Yes.
Don't understand.
We don't understand Hebrew?
They don't understand the Jewish people.
Ignorance.
Ignorance to what we are.
Okay, it's what they call dislike of the unlike. So we're, and we are, as we'll see.
Well, I'm actually saying the unknown. It's unknown to them, I think. They don't understand us.
They think that
That's
we're
ignorant.
deep and mystical and things of that sort?
Well, more like, what are they doing? They act differently than us. Why don't they come out on Sunday to church? Why do they go on Saturday?
Okay.
Why do they have to do things differently than us?
Okay.
Why don't they conform?
What's one reason why we don't come out Sunday mornings to church, besides the fact that we're here today?
It's the first day of the week.
And we're sleeping?
We're working.
We're working.
We're working, we're learning. It's not,
We don't believe in
it's not
Jesus.
Shabbos.
What's
We
that?
don't believe in Jesus.
What else did we do to Jesus?
Well, we killed him.
Oh, we killed
But we
him.
didn't. But,
Sure.
okay.
Some of them may not like us because of something they call deicide. We killed Jesus. Did we?
No.
We'll discuss it. We'll discuss it. We'll discuss it. What else? What, yes.
Anything having to do with money.
Money. We are rich. That's right. No question about it. We are rich and powerful. Yes. Excuse me?
Jealousy.
Jealousy.
I heard it. I heard it. Okay. Let's discuss that one right away. If you go over to your average Nazi, or your Cossack in Lithuania, or if you go over to your friendly ISIS member and you ask him, why don't you like the Jewish people? And he's going to say, well,
They're dirty, filthy.
I'm jealous of them. They're not going to say they're jealous. There's a much deeper reason. No anti-Semite will ever tell you, I'm jealous. That's why I don't like them. Granted, many people don't like people that you're jealous of, but we'll discuss about why they actually feel that way. But they will never come out, a sociologist will never tell you, because the nations are jealous of the Jews. What else? Yes?
Chosenness?
Yeah, because we think that we are the chosen people. Yes, very good. What else? Yes?
There's a lot of Bernie Madoffs out there.
I
And
go
they're
back to
ruining
money.
it for the good
Yeah,
guys.
well,
They think that, yeah, you're right. You're right. We may not always be the best that we're supposed to be. What's another reason? Who do they always pick on? Why? We're the perennial...
Scapegoat.
We are the scapegoat. And why did Adolf Hitler himself not like the Jewish people? Yes.
He thought that they were ruining the German economy.
Yes, racial, that's right. We are an inferior race. What is the most common reason today why every media, every organization, every country is against the Jewish people? More properly called Palestine. Right? Is that how they say it? They say Palestine. They don't say Palestine, they say Palestine.
That's close enough.
Closer. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 reasons. Let's take a look at these 7 reasons and see if they are actually the cause of anti-Semitism. What's the difference between a cause and an excuse? How can you tell the difference? Something is causing something.
It is effect.
It has an effect. So if something is really the cause of anti-Semitism, that would be, the effect would be, what we do is causing, the cause of what we do is affecting the anti-Semitism. What happens if it's just an excuse? How would you know? How would you know if it's an excuse or a cause?
Because there's no reasoning behind it.
One's based on fact and the other one is based upon opinion.
Okay, so if I take away the cause and the effect is still there, then it's just an excuse. Yes? Okay, so let's start with this one. We hate the Jewish people because they're rich and powerful and they control the government. Yeah.
That's modern day.
What's that?
That's modern day.
No, it isn't.
Okay, we'll take a look at
You
it.
need to go back further than that because that was not true at one time.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to look at what the modern, you're right, 100%. We're going to look at the modern interpretation of what is the cause of anti-Semitism and see if that always was. You're absolutely right.
That's not a cause then.
Hold on.
That just happens to be the symptoms.
Hold on just a moment. I hear you.
I have a question.
How many? Yes.
How can a population of less than 1% affect the economy of Germany?
That's another good question.
We didn't.
Too powerful.
We did
So
it.
why were we playing for it?
So let's take a look at it. How many of you have heard of the book called The Protocols of the Elders of Zion?
Heard of it.
Anybody tell us what it is basically about? What is that book based on? Yes, sir. Steve.
Basically saying that there was a cabal of Jewish people that were
Yeah.
meeting secretly to take over the world, control the world, and so on. It was put out as a fake book in Russia.
Yes.
And it has grown throughout the years as a means for anti-Semites to say, look, this is what the basis is.
And who made up that cabal of Jewish people? What kind of people were there at those meetings?
Nice people.
Jewish people. Jewish financiers, the rabbis, all the leaders. Every 100 years, all of the leaders of the Jewish people get together and they plan out the next 100 years of world history. In 1900, we planned the Holocaust, and we planned World War I, and we planned World War II, and we planned the Intifada, and we planned the insurrections against the state of Israel, all for the benefit of the Jewish people. Would you think that anybody would believe a book like that?
It's lousy planning.
Must have been Jewish planning.
What's the number 1 published book in the world? The Bible. What's the number 2 published book in the world?
The Quran?
Who? The Quran, you said?
Yeah.
No. Harry Potter. I'm sorry. Harry Potter, the collection of Harry Potter works. Number 3. I mean, we don't really consider Harry Potter as a major work of literature.
Is it Mein Kampf?
Number 3, no, is the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. When Henry Kissinger went to Egypt, they gave him a gilded, leather-bound edition of the Protocols of Elders of Zion. Is it true? Absolutely not. As Steve told us, it's a fiction made up by the Russian society. However, if anti-Semitism is all based on the fact that they believe that we are rich and powerful, then it makes anti-Semitism nothing more than a class struggle. The rich against the poor. So let's take away the rich, let's take away the powerful, and let's see if the anti-Semitism is still there. When the Crusades ravaged their way through Europe, did they check liquidity in bank accounts?
No,
No. When
they took it all.
They took everything. When the Nazis liquidated the Warsaw Ghetto, did the Jews there have money? No. They had no clothes, they had no food, they had no jobs, they had nothing, they had no homes. Yet, the Nazis still felt that they had to liquidate the Warsaw Ghetto. Think about all the shtetls of Poland and Russia in the 17th, 18th, 19th century. The Jews didn't own land, didn't have jobs, didn't have any money. They were all persecuted, killed, pogroms. So it can't be that richness is a cause of anti-Semitism. Of course, when the other people they see that the Jewish people are generally, especially today, at the higher level of wealth and prosperity, it makes that anti-Semite gnash his teeth and get even more angry. But that's not what made him an anti-Semite before. We control governments. We control the governments. Let me ask you, why is it in World War II, when the Jews of the world of Europe were trying to escape from the Holocaust, not one government would take us in? Not one. You remember the movie The Voyage of the Damned? True story. Where nation after nation refused to allow the passengers on board to disembark. As a result, the ship went back, USS St. Louis went back to Europe, and they were all killed except one person. So the claim that the Jews control governments is absurd. Let me ask you a question. I don't know if you have a particular philanthropist here in Ben Salem. But let's say you work for a large company, and the chairman of the board walks into the room, walks into the office. What do? How do you treat him? Hello, sir. Good morning, ma'am. Nice to see you. Respect. With respect. You treat them with kid gloves. If the people of the world believed that we were rich and powerful, that we controlled the entire world, why don't they treat us that way? The nations probably don't really love the Arabs. But for the last decade, 2 decades, they control all the oil. Although Japan has no natural resources, their greatest ally is the Arab world, because they need the oil. They don't really love them, but because they need them, they treat them in a different manner. Why don't they treat us the same way? So rich and powerful can't be the cause of anti-Semitism, because anti-Semites hate rich Jews and they hate poor Jews. Yes, sir.
That's why I said money in general is not rich. Money.
Money.
Poor and rich. If you go with money.
In the last couple of years, what your point is proven by what has taken place in the last few years because of Israel's technology sector. There are now companies and countries, Saudi Arabia, for example, that are now quietly cowering up to Israel, the government, and industries.
Look what we're doing in India. We're creating water out of air. We're irrigating lands that have been arid for years with our technology. So yes, we're quietly making a lot of friends, but it still doesn't stop them, unfortunately, from speaking behind our backs. And worse. Let's take a look at chosenness. We hate you because you still persist in the belief that you are the chosen people. First of all, what does chosen mean? Are we the chosen people? Yes. What does chosen mean? What are we chosen for? Yes.
Source. We have been given the responsibility to establish life standards and to live according to Torah in order to show the light to the rest of the world.
We are supposed to be a light unto the nations. We're supposed to bring the word, message of God into this world. We're not chosen for privilege. We're chosen for responsibility. Good job. Good job that the Jewish people have. We're not chosen because innately we are better than them. We don't claim to be better. We are chosen. We are chosen that we have a job to do. Just like the Marines. Marines are the higher level of the fighting forces. We're the elite. We're the elite. We have a much more difficult job than anybody else. So, let's take away this claim of chosenness and see if this anti-Semitism goes away. When did we do that? That we said, we are no longer chosen. You, your society, you are the chosen people. We want to be like you. Where did we say that recently? Germany. Germany and Austria. Germany is our fatherland. Berlin is our Jerusalem. We're not chosen. You are chosen. Did they love us?
No.
Did they bring us in and say, we love you?
No.
You're part of us? Not at all. It's exactly when we claim to drop the claim of chosenness and we try to become like them that we see the worst anti-Semitism in the history of the world. Are there any other religions that claim to be chosen?
All of them.
All of them. All of them. Christianity and Islam. The Christians believe in the Bible. Yes, the Bible says we're the chosen people.
Muslims also, they believe in the
That's
Bible.
correct. We didn't get to them yet. Christianity. Christianity, they say that that God spoke to the Jewish people on Mount Sinai. We were the chosen people. We're supposed to bring the message of God to the rest of the world. We failed in our mission. God sent a new messenger, changed his mind, and now we are the chosen people. Islam says the same thing. Our good friend Muhammad, he went up. He went up to heaven, him and his horse, Barak. I know that name. He went up to heaven. He met with the Jewish archangel Gabriel. He told him, you are now the messenger of God. He came down to earth, told everybody, I am the new prophet. Islam is now the new religion. That we are now the chosen people. What do we say? We say God chose us. He never changed his mind. And all of a sudden, it's too much for the world to bear. They can't take that. What about the Christians? Why doesn't every anti-Semite hate the Christians? Because most of them are Christian. Why don't they hate the Muslims? In fact, if chosenness was the real cause of anti-Semitism, then anti-Semites should hate just about everybody. Anybody here ever going to China? You go to China? I've been there too many times. You know what the word China means? The word China in Chinese means center of the universe. Chosen? You know the flag of Japan? What's a beautiful flag of Japan? A big red. What does that Japan mean? It means the sun rises only for us. Anybody ever hear of the manifest destiny? Yeah, what is manifest destiny?
It's when Americans went over from the east to the west and to seek resources.
Why? Because we're chosen. We're supposed to take over the entire North America. Everybody claims to be chosen. However, chosenness and anti-Semitism is limited only to the Jewish people. So it can't be that chosenness is the cause of anti-Semitism, because even when we drop it, anti-Semitism is still there. What about this one? What is the scapegoat theory? What does it mean? What does it mean to be a scapegoat?
You need someone to blame.
You need someone to blame. Dictators come into power. The country is not progressing. It doesn't have economy. The people are downtrodden. They're being attacked by different places. The dictator comes into power and he says, you know what? You know whose fault it is? It's all because of these people called the Jews. That's the scapegoat theory. It's a very good theory, but it's very flawed. I'll tell you why. What would happen? What do you think would happen 2 years from now, 3 years from now, Democratic National Convention? And one of our friendly Democrats
Hillary Clinton.
gets up in front of the entire convention somewhere in Florida, and she says, ladies and gentlemen, or he says, ladies and gentlemen, there is a people amongst us. They're the scourge of America. They are causing America to fall in the eyes of the rest of the world. They are destroying our economy, and they are destroying our morale. These people must be persecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And do you know who these people are, ladies and gentlemen? These are the Amish of Pennsylvania. What do you think people, they're going to laugh. They're going to say, what are you, crazy? The Amish in Pennsylvania? What do they do? Never heard of them. They stay by themselves. Unless you take a people where there is an existing hatred, you can't use them as a scapegoat. That's why you can never take the Amish, Eskimos, American Indians, because there's no pre-existing hatred. The Jews are the people that everybody loves to hate. It's not only that the scapegoat theory puts a cart before the horse, but when you think about it, it's a great indication of how much anti-Semitism there is underlying in our society, just waiting to be stirred up. God forbid anything should happen here in America where the leaders of our country, the government has institutionalized anti-Semitism, oy vavoy, you know what that means? Oy vavoy, woe unto
Someone
us.
is good.
I don't know if you are familiar with Rabbi Avigdor Miller, may he rest in peace. One of the great rabbis of our generation, born in Baltimore, educated at Yeshiva University, educated then again in Europe. I learned with him for 15 years. He used to say, America is a tinderbox just waiting for that first spark to ignite. We have to be very careful how we behave here in America. We have to be very thankful, and God, every single day, God bless America. Let's look at this. Deicide. What does that mean?
Killing of God.
We killed the God. Now I got to ask you a question, because I'm from Brooklyn, you're from Pennsylvania, maybe you have a different perspective, maybe you have an answer. How do you kill a God? How do you kill a God?
Put a couple of nails to him.
He should pop up against someplace else. He's a God. He's all powerful. How do you kill him? First of all, who was Jesus? Who was he?
He was the son of a carpenter.
Jewish,
If he was the son of a
He was a
carpenter.
rabbi. He was a rabbi.
Maybe he was a rabbi. I don't want to insult any of our modern day rabbis here. I think you could call him a rabbi.
fellow Jew.
He was a fellow Jew. And what did he claim to be?
Son of God.
The Son of God. Why did the Son of God come into this world?
For salvation for the people's sins.
By doing?
By dying on the
By
cross.
dying. Jesus came into this world to die. Ever since Adam and Eve ate from the tree of knowledge, man is evil. And man has to repent for his sin, called the original sin. And if they don't repent for original sin, they will spend eternity in hell. So Jesus came into this world to die. Seems to me, every Easter, we should be getting thank you notes.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense. If we killed him, which is what he wanted, we did him a favor. Otherwise, he'd be burning in everlasting hell.
He did want to be a martyr.
We don't know if he wanted to be a martyr. We don't know. And you can't believe Paul because Paul never met him. Paul never met Jesus. Yeah, I know. I know. The only time he met Jesus was the ghost of Jesus on his way to Damascus. He never met him. Mark was 5 years old when Jesus was crucified. John was 8. They don't know Jesus. Paul was the quintessential marketing expert. He took this theory and he created a religion. That's a side story. That's a separate thing. So, they hate us because we killed Jesus. Let me ask you a question. I just drove here from Brooklyn, and today there wasn't that much traffic. But let's say you're driving on the highway, or you're driving on the street, and some hot rod comes along and cuts you off. And you say, I want to get that guy.
I do.
It's called road rage. And you're driving down the highway now 60 miles, 70 miles an hour, 80 miles an hour. You're trying to catch up to this guy. It's called road rage, right? What happens if a week later you see the same guy?
Beat him with a bat.
Okay, roll down your window, or you push a button down the window, and okay, maybe you'll have a couple of nice words for him. Month later, year later. Christian anti-Semitism did not begin until 1,000 years after Christ was crucified. When Pope Urban decided to have the Crusades come to liberate the Holy Land from the infidel. Who was the infidel? The Muslims, not even us. That's when there was a first incident of anti-Semitism sanctioned by the church. Why? 1,000 years. If you're really upset that we killed your God, why didn't you upset right away? Why does it take 1,000 years for the church fathers to come and say, let's go get the Jews? 1,000 years. And not only that, From 1,000 years until now, it gets worse and worse. Instead of getting less and less, like every other anger. I don't understand it. Why is that? Second of all, who killed Jesus?
The
The Romans. If you look in the New Testament, in several places, it will tell you the Roman soldiers took him out and crucified him. We may have been the accomplices. We may have encouraged Rome to do, but we didn't kill him. Pontius Pilate was the prelate in Jerusalem at the time. He was the ambassador from Rome. Here is a man who claims to be the king of the Jews, clearly insurrection against Rome. He takes him out and crucifies him. How many people did Pontius Pilate crucify? Thousands. Josephus says that the crosses were lining the roads of people dying on the cross. He was just one man. And he wasn't killed by us, he was killed by the Romans. So you would think that the British Catholics and the French Catholics should be just a little bit miffed at the Roman Catholics. If you read anywhere in the New Testament, you don't find one bit of evidence of anti-Roman sentiment. Why?
Because they don't
At that
exist
time, they
anymore.
weren't
Excuse me, they
Christians.
don't exist anymore? The Romans.
No, I'm talking about when the New Testament was written. Years and years ago, when Paul and Matthew and Luke and all those people, when they wrote the New Testament, the Romans were certainly there. They were there another 150 years.
They were afraid of them. And they wanted to blame a minority.
Paul started the religion in Rome.
Paul started the religion.
You needed
And he eventually became the Holy Roman Empire.
Yeah, they were against it at that time.
Most people were against any religion which did not hold the emperor to be a king.
God.
That's just one of the Christian blood libels against us, that we killed their God. Did we kill their God?
That's
We
a
know we
lie.
didn't. Yes.
But didn't the early popes have to be Jewish for a while to become pope?
Yes. Yes, they have to have Jewish descent.
I can't answer that. I don't know. All I know is that at the time of his ministry, he had a total of about 500 followers. That's it. They claim that we killed their God. What else do they claim? They claim that we drink their blood.
With their matzah.
Anybody ever hear that? That we kill Christian children, we drain their blood, and we put them into matzah. We are the only religion in the world that prohibits the consumption of blood. It says it many times in the Bible. No, don't drink the blood, don't eat the blood, don't drink the blood, spill it on the floor, don't eat it, because the blood is the soul of the person. We don't drink blood. Do people believe it? Entire towns have been wiped out in Europe because of the blood libels. The trial of Mendel Bayless in the year 1911, March 12, 1911. The Tsar himself presided over that case. His goal was to incite the entire Russian people to wipe out 5 million Jews from Russia, based on the blood libel of one man.
Pogroms.
All the pogroms. Not only based on the blood libel, but there's another one called the desecration of the host. Anybody hear the desecration of the host? What is the host?
The wafer.
The wafer. What is the wafer?
The body.
The body of little Jesus. When a child, I think maybe 10 years old, 12 years old, confirmation, whatever it is, they take the wafer and they take a drink of wine. This is the body, and the blood goes into the body, into the child. Why do they do that? So that God becomes part of the person. They say in the New Testament that every generation of the Jews is responsible for the killing of Christ. How could you do that? He only died once. Well, because the wafer represents Christ. What did we used to do? At night, the Jews would sneak into the churches. They would steal the wafer, bring it back to their synagogues, and put holes in it with pins, and to torture the baby Christ. Ladies and gentlemen, nobody tortures cookies. Nobody. Do people believe this type of stuff? Yes, people believe this type of stuff. Again, towns, cities, villages, wiped out because of these claims. The people will believe anything against us because we are the people that they love to hate. So it's not because of deicide, because we know we didn't kill him. Let's talk about this. Some people said that we're different, we don't dress like them, we don't do business with them, we don't marry them, we have a different culture, we have a different language, we look different, dress different, act different. We are the ultimate outsiders. I want to ask you a question. Anybody here know any Italian Americans? Yeah? Anybody know any, I don't know the right word for it, Afro-Americans, Black Americans? What do they say now? What's PC? Afro? Black? Afro? African-Americans. You know African-Americans? Yes? You know any Irish Americans? Yeah? Anybody know any American Jews?
No, they're considered Jews. They're not considered
Wait a
American.
second. How come everybody else is American and we're American Jews? Ever noticed that? Everybody else can be something American. You never hear of Jewish Americans. We are American Jews. People today still considers us to be outsiders. Okay? So again, let's drop this claim of being an outsider. I don't want to be an outsider. Along comes Napoleon, comes the Enlightenment. All of you can come to colleges, you can be professionals now. Everybody says, finally, this is our chance. We can become part of society. We take off our capitals, we cut our beards, we cut our hair, we take off the yarmulkes, we take off the tzitzits, and we go to the opera, and we go to college, and we become professionals. And what does German society, Austrian society say about us now? We don't hate you because you're an outsider. We hate you because now we don't know who's a Jew. You're assimilating with us. And you're becoming part of us. Well, you can't do that because you are polluting the superior Aryan race with your inferior genes. Brings us to the racial theory of antisemitism. So now we know some African Americans. Anybody know any African Jews? Ethiopian Jews? Chinese Jews?
Sammy Davis Jr.
There's a lot of Ethiopian Jews, Moroccan Jews.
Moroccan Jews, Netherlands Jews, Russian Jews, every race. We're not a race. We're not a race. Anybody can become a Jew. So how can you hate us because we're an inferior race? I can change my dress, I can change my looks, I can change my religion, but short of splicing my genes, I can't become an insider. I'm always an outsider. There's nothing wrong with my genes. Because anybody can become a Jew, and everybody has become a Jew. So it's not because of this, not because of this, or this.
But it is the genes. I took the test. I took the Ancestry.com genetic test. It identified me as a Jew.
Baruch Hashem, welcome to the fold. Are your genes inferior?
I don't know. They're able to be tracked.
I don't think so. I don't think they're
Now
inferior
in the system.
to most of the people who work in my office. You're not inferior. Believe me that. Okay. Let's look at this one. Now, admittedly, this is a little bit new. When was the State of Israel formed? 1948. Was there any worldwide anti-Semitism before 1948? Yeah. So it can't be this. It's very simple. It can't be that they hate us because of what we're doing or not doing to the Palestinians. That can't be the cause of anti-Semitism because they've already hated us for 2,000 years before Israel. And Israel never existed until 1948. There was no temple. There was no city of David. There was no David, no Solomon. Jesus was never at the temple. Titus never destroyed the temple and brought the stuff back to Rome. There is no Ark of God sitting in the basement of the Vatican. It doesn't exist. What happened? You all forgot your own religion? Christians, you forgot. Muslims, you forgot your religion? You came and you took Jerusalem away from us? Crusades, you ravaged your way through Europe and killed Jews on your way to Jerusalem, and what did you find when you got there? You found Jews. You forgot? The whole world forgot that the Jews have been there for thousands of years? Your own book is based on it. I don't understand. So, it can't be this either. Can't be that. I want to come to two conclusions before we continue. Number one, regardless of what the cause of anti-Semitism is, you'll notice that it's different in every type of hatred for four reasons. Number one, longevity. It's been called the longest hatred. Ever since Abraham, our forefather, was thrown into the furnace, ever since Laban tried to destroy Jacob, our forefather, ever since we were slaves in the land of Egypt, the world has been trying to destroy the Jewish people. That's 3,800 years. Number two, it's universal. Wherever we go, I hate to say it, eventually anti-Semitism raises its ugly head. We have been exiled from more than 80 different countries in a period of 1,700 years. Every 22 years, that's not close up your store and we're going to Florida for the summer, for the winter, sorry. That's pick up your stuff, close your house, sell your businesses, and get thee out. From one nation of Europe and Africa and Asia after another. France, Spain, Portugal, England, Germany, Lithuania, France. I said France, France again.
They took their businesses. They weren't allowed to sell it. The government took their businesses.
There was nothing, for many people, there was nothing to take. Wherever we go, sooner or later, anti-Semitism will rise up against us. America has been called the last frontier, the last homeland of the Jewish people, before we are all whisked away to the land of Israel. We have to make sure that we are secure here in America, and the only one that's secured for us is him. Number three, hatred is common. Nations hate other nations. Races hate other races. But genocide is not common. The Jewish people have been the focus of two attempts in a period of 300 years to wipe out the entire Jewish people. The Holocaust and the pogroms of Tach in 1658, 1659. Over 500,000 people killed by Khmelnytsky, general, and, as we know, 6 million people in the Holocaust. Why? Why? Number four. We've been talking about various causes of anti-Semitism. There's causes, there's reasons, there's excuses. Tap an anti-Semite on the shoulder and ask him, why do you hate the Jewish people? They're going to give you answers that totally contradict each other. They hate us because we're capitalists. They hate us because we're communists. They hate us because we control the world. They hate us because we stay by ourselves. They hate us because we assimilate. They hate us because we have a chosen people mentality, and they hate us because we have an inferiority complex. They hate us for everything. Whatever you hate, that's the Jew. But a second larger conclusion, much more important. Look at all these reasons of why they say the Jewish people are hated. What do you notice about it? It has nothing to do with Judaism.
It's a human nature.
It all has to do with sociology and economy. Has nothing to do with the fact that we are Jews. Not only does it make anti-Semitism meaningless, it makes it just another hatred, it makes being Jewish meaningless. It's not uncommon to hear, we don't like the Jews, they control the banks, they control the media, they control Hollywood, they control the government. Or, isn't it a shame that Hitler chose the Jewish people? What a shame. We've been hated for thousands of years, and it has nothing to do with Jewishness? The Holocaust, the most systematic attempt in the history of the world to wipe out a people, and had nothing to do with the fact that we're Jews? There was a young lady who made an amazing assessment of what she believed was a cause of anti-Semitism. She put it into her diary on April 11th, 1944. Let me read to you what Anne Frank wrote in her diary. It says, who has made us Jews different from all the people? Who has allowed us to suffer so terribly until now? It is God who has made us as we are. But it will also be God who will raise us up again. Who knows? It might even be our religion from which the world and all peoples learn good. And for that reason, and that reason alone, do we now suffer. We can never become just Netherlanders or just English or representatives of any country for that matter. We will always remain Jews. She is saying very clearly that the reason that we are hated is for the values and the morals that we have brought to the world. She is saying that anti-Semitism is different from every other type of hatred in the history of the world. It's hatred of our Jewishness. There was a play on Broadway called The Diary of Anne Frank. And when they asked Anne Frank on Broadway, why don't people like the Jews? You know what her answer was? Well, one day it's one group, and the next day it's another. In other words, there is nothing special about anti-Semitism. There was one man, however, whose ideas of the cause of anti-Semitism differed from everybody else. His name is Adolf Hitler. And he says that his view of the cause of anti-Semitism is different from what sociologists said. Sociologists say it's because we're rich, because we're scapegoats, we're chosen people, because we killed Jesus, because we're outsiders, because racial. Adolf Hitler says nonsense. Hatred of a Jew is because he or she is a Jew. There is something unique about anti-Semitism because there is something unique about the Jewish people. Many people don't know this about Adolf Hitler. He did not, his goal was not to dominate the world. His goal was to make the world Judenrein. I want to read to you a few of the quotes from this evil man, and they will shock you. The struggle for world domination will be fought entirely between us, between Germans and Jews. All else is facade and illusion. Behind England stands Israel, and behind France and behind the United States. Even when we have driven the Jew out of Germany, he remains our world enemy. There was only one thing standing in the way of Adolf Hitler. It's the Jews. He knew that we introduced the idea of one God, of helping the poor and helping the sick, of more goodness and morality. And that it was absolutely opposite of everything that Adolf Hitler wanted the world to be, and consequently what he wanted for the world. People don't know that. Listen what he says about himself. He says, they refer to me as an uneducated barbarian. Yes, we are barbarians. We want to be barbarians. It is an honored title to us. We shall rejuvenate the world. This world is at its end. For Providence has ordained that I should be the greatest liberator of mankind. I am freeing man from the restraints of an intelligence that has taken charge, from the dirty, degrading, self-defeating, false vision called conscience and morality. The 10 Commandments have lost their validity. Conscience is a Jewish invention. There's a blemish like circumcision. Hitler didn't beat around the bush in stating why he hated the Jews. He knew exactly what we stood for. He knew what we meant. He knew that the threat of Judaism is embodied in every single one of us. This is what he says. If only one country, for whatever reason, tolerates a Jewish family, if only one Jewish little boy survives without any Jewish education, with no synagogue and no Hebrew school, it is in his soul. Adolf Hitler, our greatest enemy, is telling us that we are the most powerful nation in the world. His message is worthy of the prophets. If Moses would have told us that, we wouldn't believe it. If Isaiah would have prophesied that, we would say, hasn't come true. If King Solomon told us we are the most powerful nation in the world, would say, maybe he's not so smart. Our greatest enemy knows us better than we know ourselves. Even if there had never been a Jew or a synagogue or a Jewish, if there had never been a synagogue or a Jewish school or the Old Testament, the Jewish spirit would still exist and exert its influence. It has been there from the beginning, and there is no Jew, not one, who does not personify it. Adolf Hitler was not an evil man because he understood who we are. He was an evil man because of his reaction to it. He knew that we are the ones who brought values, morality, goodness into the world. When he says it's been there from the beginning, when God created a good world, he needed messengers to bring that message to the world. Goodness was always there. We represent it. Question for you. Golden State Warriors come into Philadelphia. They're playing the Philadelphia 76ers. What do they focus on?
Number 30.
Number 30. Stephen Curry. Why? Because if you neutralize the MVP, the rest of the team goes away. What was the most powerful religion in Europe for 2,000 years? The Christian church. Adolf Hitler didn't have a problem with the Christian church. He killed priests, there's no question. Those priests that didn't agree with the Reich, they were killed. Mussolini, his greatest ally, the Vatican was right there. Why did he destroy the church and destroy the Vatican? He didn't have a problem with Christianity. Why did Adolf Hitler make a treaty with the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem? Why didn't he have a problem with Islam? Why did he go after Judaism? Because he knows that Judaism is the mother religion, and they're just very poor stepchilds of us. We gave religion to the world, and he had to neutralize us, and that's what he did. Adolf Hitler had a great understanding of who we are, better than most of us. Most of us don't understand what our message is. Our message is goodness. Our message is values. Why would anybody hate a message like that? Why? Understand what's going on for thousands of years before Mount Sinai. Everybody lived the way they wanted to. Society was free. The Jews came along and they said, no. Your pagan gods are nonsense. You can't worship the cow and the alligator and the sun and the moon. There's a God. He's a loving God. He's infinite. He's powerful. He loves his people. Infanticide is wrong. Human sacrifice is wrong. You can't just do what you want. There's a higher authority. And deep down inside, people know that that's true. They know that there's a basic morality, a level that they need to come up with. And if you can't live with that message, you have to destroy the messenger. Because the message itself won't go away. And that's what's so irksome and bothersome about us. If we were just another ideology, if we were one of thousands of religions, laugh us off. Nobody cares. But everybody knows the word of the Jews is correct, that our message is right. And that's why they reject us. A claim of superiority only bothers you when you believe that it's true. And they believe that it's true. And that's why Christian anti-Semitism is so strong. Not because we killed Jesus. Sigmund Freud says because we produced him. Love thy neighbor, turn your other cheek, be good to your to your fellow man, give charity. That's what they preach. They got that from us. We produced him. But we said he's not God. We know most about that more than anybody, other people, anybody else in the world. And we said, your God is not our God. That's why the hatred is so strong against us. Because we know the truth and they know the truth. Dennis Prager wrote a book called Why the Jews? And he explains a very important difference between the Jewish explanation for anti-Semitism and the de-Judaized explanation. Let me read you just one paragraph of what he says, talking about World War II. He says there was just one significant distinction among the Jews in the gas chambers. Not rich and poor, not young and old, not religious and irreligious. One overwhelmingly important distinction. There were those who knew why they were being gassed and those who didn't. If you're in the gas chamber and you believe that it's just your rotten luck that the Nazis chose the Jewish people, what an awful, crude, senseless death that is. But if you're in the gas chambers and you know that you stand for something, and you die with meaning and you die with pride. Anti-Semites know that, yes, we do challenge them. In a sense, we do. Not to say that every one of us is a saint. There are those who hate the moral values brought down in the Torah, like Karl Marx. And there are non-Jews who love what Judaism stands for. But it's a fact that when evil strikes, first it strikes the Jews. History has shown. When there's evil in the world, we are what they call miner's canary. We're the first to die. And then the rest of society follows. So what's the solution? What's the solution to anti-Semitism? It's the same as the cause. When the rest of the world will embrace the values that are brought down in the Torah at Mount Sinai, then there'll be no more Holocaust. Not what I think is right, not because of my reason, not because I think it's the right thing to do, but because God said so. We have not been hated for all these years because we were an economic threat, political threat, military threat. We've been hated because of our Judaism. To the extent that the good of us refrain from doing good, all we're doing is we are empowering evil to take hold. Moderate evil like the KKK here in America, it makes society a nasty place. But pure evil, like the Nazis or ISIS or suicide bombers, they can wipe out society. So the important question here is not why the Jews. The question is why be Jewish? We need, if living in a society as we do, we need an internal sense of why it's important to be Jewish. It's our responsibility for the good among us to bring God so mightily into this world that it crushes evil and doesn't allow it to take hold. This can only be done by learning what God requires of us, by doing the mitzvahs, and with the help of the rabbis in Ben Salem, to do acts of kindness, each man to his neighbor. Thank you very much.
I'm going to open up the floor for questions for Rabbi Anteby. Thank you very much. A lot to think about in that presentation. Next Sunday we're having a men's ski trip. If you have done it before or you have not, you're in good company. We hope to see as many people there as possible. The following Sunday, we're going to have another presentation by myself. It's called Faith and Fire and Faith. Thank you. About utilizing the nuclear power of faith in today's volatile times, and it's a very relevant message. And I hope to see everyone back here for that. It's January 21st. Thank you very much, and thank you again for coming. And I want to open it up to Rabbi Anteby.
Any questions? Yes, sir.
Your comments in regards to Hitler came from,
Hermann Rauschning was his confidant. He wrote a book called Hitler Speaks. He wanted to warn the world about what this man was all about. Hermann Rauschning. Yes.
So you said that the Jews, we want to help others, and we give money, and we just do a lot of good things. But what about the righteous Christians like Schindler that tried to save us? Where do they fit in?
Well, there's no question, even today here in America, we see the evangelical Christians have a great love for the Jewish people. Kol hakavod, all the credit to them. We're very grateful to them we hope that they don't have the obvious ulterior motive, right, which is to for us to help bring in their Messiah. Right. By the way, for those of you who have ever read the New Testament, nowhere will you ever find anywhere called a second coming. Your God, you shouldn't have missed the first time. Why do you have to come back a second time? But as far as the righteous Gentiles, there is definitely a concept in Judaism which says that there are the righteous among the Gentiles, that all they must do is keep the 7 Noahide laws. They get into heaven same as us. They don't get the same front seat because they only have 7 mitzvahs, not 613. But we recognize them and we applaud them and we certainly appreciate them. There's nothing which says that everyone must hate the Jewish people. Once you embrace the laws brought down by us, more than welcome.
Because he wasn't Jewish and he really didn't care about us until it was an evolution.
Who's that? Noah?
Oscar Schindler. He wanted to be, with the Nazis and be up in the upper class, and he saw what they were doing and he put it in his heart to do the right thing.
So there's a question, is mankind basically good or basically animalistic? We have a soul which allows us to be good and to elevate ourselves. If we play down our soul or don't recognize that we are the dichotomy of a soul blended with the dust of the earth, and we let our animalistic side come forth, then we see things like the Holocaust. So if we elevate our soul and we live as a soul, not just the non-Jews, but the Jews also, that becoming godlike elevates the entire world. That's why these acts of righteousness are called righteous. Yes?
The historical Jesus only preached to fellow Jews, right? Historically.
There were pagans and some, again, 500 followers.
Okay, so mostly Jews, right? Because would a pagan necessarily listen to a Jew? That's another question, but, was there any proof that this person ever said they were somehow deity related or deity connected?
So there's a very interesting response that has come out, actually 1998, that it recognized at the time that Christianity was not catching on, certainly not among the Jews. If you've read any Greek mythology, Roman mythology, you know that the gods impregnating a woman is the surest way to have a god here on earth. So when Mark, I believe, found out that Christianity was not catching on, he added to his particular gospel that this was a immaculate conception. My question is, how did Paul miss that little tidbit of news? How did he not know?
It was on a translation from Aramaic to Greek.
It's nowhere in the books of Paul and Matthew that there is an immaculate conception from a God into Mary. So If that was the basis of their religion, certainly the person who founded it should have known that. So it was a later thought which came into Christianity because in order to attract the pagans, they had to have this pagan rite come through. It's also well known, and again, I have this on, I can't say great authority, but I would say very high authority in the Christian church, that it's well known that Mary gave birth 3 months earlier than she was supposed to. So how was she, how did she conceive? I guess a God can do anything, or so can a fellow neighbor. Yes, sir, you had a question?
Well, actually, two things. I always thought that the Immaculate Conception was the fact that Mary was born without sin.
Mary? Jesus.
No.
No, Mary.
The Immaculate Conception in Christianity is that Mary was born sin-free. That's
Because her mother and father also.
so she was. I don't think it has to do with the birth. That's
Okay.
what but here's my question. That's realize.
Okay,
According to Christian theology, or whatever,
okay.
in Prager's book,
I'll Google it.
no, it's true. If you look it up,
true.
that's what it'll
I
say.
believe it. I believe
In
it.
Prager's
I'm not
book,
an expert on that. I looked through these books, I couldn't find anything.
in Prager's book, he made a statement that Telushkin and Prager that the early Christians, in order to discredit Jews, because you couldn't have two religions that said I'm the truth and you're the truth, that they made us commit that we were the ones that committed deicide, and we were children of the devil. And then throughout history, you saw the Jews always related to a devil, some kind of a devil form that would be put on, as far as the other kind of faces that they put on us. So I'd like you to comment on that part, if you would. How to that you could not have two religions that were saying that they were both true, that they had to discredit us. So that's really where it came on to. It was in Prager's book.
Good question.
So I apologize. I haven't read that book. I'm not familiar with what the reasoning might be, but I think it would be the same type of reason that you have today. That you have 1.5 billion Muslims, you have 1.2 billion Christians, and you have 14 million Jews. That we can't all be right. So
Right.
somebody has to be right. So we say that both of them are wrong. So whether it's 1.2 billion that are wrong, 1.5 billion that are wrong, or the Buddhists that are wrong, the Hindus that are wrong, there are billions of people out there who have a different set of beliefs. When Constantine changed the Roman Empire into the Holy Roman Empire, he just commanded that the official religion of Rome was going to be Christianity. Anti-Jewish sentiment started at that time, sanctioned by the Roman government. So Judaism automatically had to take a second place to Christianity. Because two right, two wrong, I don't know if that was the reason. I think more that Constantine considered himself to be a god or to be of the Christian faith, and he wanted that to be the universal religion. So I can't really answer your question completely. I'm sorry. Yes?
Contrary to our lives over these last 50, 60 years, most of history has been not a separation of church and state, because there was no separation. There were no two different entities. They were one and the same. And if and keeping that in mind, back at that time, you had the Pharisees and the Sadducees. They were two political groups of people, each prophesizing their agenda, no different than what you see at a Democratic or Republican National Convention and the television ads that take place. So in order to accomplish your task of winning over the votes that you won, not that they voted then, but winning over their minds and hearts, they were doing the same techniques that we're doing today. Or let me reverse it. We're doing the same techniques that were used back then to establish Christianity. Paul and Mark were community political organizers, basically, who happened to use this guy named Joseph, later Jesus, as their role model, that they could, stand up in front of people and say, hail.
I guess human nature hasn't changed. Everybody has their agenda. We have the agenda here. We believe that we are right. We are the only nation that's been around 3,800 years. And as Winston Churchill said, there is no greater indication of a divine providence than the continued existence of the Jewish people. Winston Churchill said that. Yes?
With regard to the Palestine issue, do you view anti-Israel sentiment as the same thing as anti-Zionism? I mean, anti-Zionism as anti-Semitism, or is there a clear distinction between the two?
I would say that based on the widespread feelings against the Jewish people from people who have no connection whatsoever to the land of Israel, I would think it's an excuse for people to come out into the open in Europe to say we don't like the Jewish people once again. It's a platform that is easily supported, especially by, which is now probably 50% of their Muslim, 100% of the population, which is Muslim, which is 50% of the Euro population in certain areas. So, me personally, I believe that it's 100% anti-Semitism, and it's being masked as, look at what you are doing to these poor Palestinian people. No one's saying that to Assad, no one's saying that to Hezbollah, no one's saying that in Libya, no one's saying that in Yemen, no one's saying that throughout the continent of Africa, no one's saying that in Korea, no one's saying that in, not China, the place on the left of China.
Indonesia.
No, there's another place.
Burma. Miramar.
Okay.
Miramar.
Burma. Yes. So, no one is saying it to anybody else. No one is voting against Shanghai. No one is voting against Peking. No one is doing that. But the whole world is now coming out and vocally coming out against the land of Israel because it's very convenient.
Nikki Haley's doing a good job.
God bless her. Someone said we should take up a petition in front of the president to say that she's probably one of the brightest spots in the political world.
No, leave her alone, then he'll get rid of her.
Yes, sir.
So your assertion is that people want to exterminate the Jews just because we want to bring the greater good to the world. Did I get it correctly? So how come other ethnic minorities are also constantly targeted and exterminated? Like, let's say, the gypsies or the homosexuals. Also, they're a minority, both of them. And also, every society tries to kill them and take them out. Almost every society. Is it also because they bring the greater good to the world? I'm going to challenge you a little bit.
So, I spoke about the differences between anti-Semitism and every other type of hatred. Ours is universal. Gypsies have lived for hundreds of years in Hungary, and homosexuals have lived since the time of the Greeks. Aristotle himself, Socrates himself, most of them practice homosexuality, write about it. Aristotle says, I can think of no greater relationship between a warrior and a young boy. He speaks about that openly. So I say that homosexuality is a social mores of the society that you're living in at the time. I don't know. No
but
question.
they've been killed.
They were killed. Yes, Germany wiped them out because Hitler himself believed that they were inferior to the Aryan race. Gypsies also inferior to the Aryan race.
Muslims, everybody kills them.
Homosexuals?
Yeah, they throw them off roofs, of course.
Do they bounce?
So,
Christians also. Everybody slaughters them, pretty much.
Well, Christians are starting to accept that.
I question that, whether it's been every society that has constantly been anti-gay and anti-gypsy. Anti-gypsy is...
Even communists, there was a formal charge in Soviet Russia.
Same thing in the Muslim countries. Gays are...
They have a trial, they sue you, they... sentence.
Worse happens to them in the Muslim countries. I don't think it's institutionalized. I don't think it's something that the government will come out in a decree against that race or those people the way that they have against the Jews. It's longevity. You can hate certain people. The KKK hates the black people for racial reasons. You can hate the gypsies because possibly of their lifestyle. You can hate the gays because of what you think that they stand for and agree or disagree. Very clear. If you ask an anti-Semite, why do you hate the Jews, he won't know. He won't. Just don't like them. I don't like them. It's irrational. Anti-Semitism is irrational. I don't like gays because X. I don't like gypsies because of Y. I don't like Jews because they're Jews. So, yes, there will be minorities that are constantly being persecuted. You could say the Kurds also are being persecuted and being exterminated, but it's not institutionalized. It's not been throughout the history of recorded history. Judaism has. Anyone else? I thank you for your time. I look forward to seeing you again a couple of years from now. Take it back home, and please pack up the leftovers, yes?
Yes.
And take them home with you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Very few Christians, maybe less than 5%, thousands of different sects of Christians believe in one God. Most of them, 95% of them believe in the church, which is contrary to our belief. One of the because they think we're wrong. They have a command. Only recently the church came out. They don't have to actively go out. Basically, it was a way of saying that it was a big problem. It was a missionary. Basically stealing kids. So now they don't have to go out. And basically, the thing is, you don't condone kidnapping.